Huh? I heard an unusual voice from my typically mild-mannered wife. It seemed that something I said had hit the switch of her anger. In our 26 years of marriage, I had never heard her speak like this before. She gave me a chilly look as I tried to laugh it off. However, I would soon understand her true intentions and reaffirm the depth of her love for me. My name is Anthony. I'm 61 years old. 3 years ago, my wife and I started running a restaurant together. It's a tiny place, with just 8 counter seats and 2 tables. But for me now, this place is also my precious castle. The regulars from the neighborhood, my friends. The customers are often familiar faces, and now, past my 60s, I feel more alive than ever. I'm in charge of cooking, and my wife takes care of the service. I work silently, occasionally smiling as I listen to my wife chatting with the customers. We hadn't planned on owning a restaurant. As a child, I helped with dinner in place of my working parents, and by upper elementary school, I could prepare meals on my own. I enjoyed cooking and had a vague dream of owning my own place someday. However, when I mentioned my desire to attend culinary school after graduating high school, my parents immediately objected. They argued that working for a stable company would be more secure. Lacking strong willpower, I easily decided to go to university instead. My dream of owning a restaurant hadn't vanished, but I didn't feel defeated because I could always cook my own meals whenever I wanted. After graduating from college and becoming a company employee, I embarked on a stable life. Living with my parents, my sole hobby was cooking. Both of my working parents had retired and were enjoying their hobbies and leisure activities. Due to our meal times not aligning, I decided to prepare my own meals. I sometimes cooked for them on weekends. I didn't consider myself lacking in sociability, but even with my routine of commuting between work and home, I found enjoyment in trying out new restaurants and searching for unusual seasonings. I was quite content with my life as it was. However, a senior colleague at work decided I must be lonely because I was single and semi-forced me into attending a mixer. I had some experience with dating but didn't feel lonely without a partner. I was just going to save my senior's face. At the mixer, I was seated across from Samantha, who was also my age by chance. She was a dynamic woman, taking the lead in ordering for everyone and serving dishes. As she was busy serving, I reached out to serve her some food. "Hey, Samantha, please stop for a moment and enjoy your meal." As I reached to take the serving dish she was holding, she looked at me, startled. "Oh, thank you. I just got carried away. Was I bothering you?" She was worried that she might have been a nuisance. "No, not at all. Everyone's just looking out for themselves. You should eat without worrying, Samantha." Saying this, I pointed at the seniors who were casually picking at their food. "Maybe it's an occupational hazard. I just can't help wanting to take care of others." She blushed slightly, giving a shy smile. "What do you do for work?" As I pondered what kind of job involves caring for others, I asked Samantha. "I work as a preschool teacher, so I'm always taking care of kids. That's why, even when I go out to eat with my girlfriends, I can help but act a bit like a mom, setting up the small plates and serving the food." Blushing, Samantha lightly sipped her beer, as if to hide her embarrassment. "So, you're everyone's mom. I can see you're very dedicated to your work. On the other hand, I like to cook for everyone." Surprisingly, we hit it off at the mixer and exchanged contact information towards the end. Since we both lived with our parents, we arranged specific days and times when we could be sure to answer each other's calls. Until then, my life was just work and home. On my days off, I spend my time exploring different eateries and searching for unique condiments. Then, the time I spent with my girlfriend became a part of my life. There were days when she would join me in my hobbies, and days when I would participate in hers, Sometimes, we would even make lunch boxes together and have picnics in the park. "Your cooking is always the best, Tony," she'd say. Samantha, not wanting to simply call me by my name, started calling me Tony. "Your hamburgers are delicious too, Samantha." Suddenly, she went silent and looked down. "What's wrong?" Concerned, I looked closer and she puffed her cheeks, glaring at me playfully like a mischievous child. "Of course it's delicious. It's store-bought after all. I simply can't match your culinary prowess." Saying this, she took a large bite of the fried chicken I had prepared. She expressed her enjoyment of the fried chicken with a trembling delight. "It makes me so happy to see you enjoy my cooking so much, Samantha." After finishing the fried chicken, she said to me, "Because it's truly delicious. If you opened a restaurant, I'm confident I'd become a regular for sure." Her words reminded me of a childhood dream I once had. "A restaurant, huh?" Murmuring this to myself, she asked with a serious look on her face. "What's wrong?" Concerned about my chuckle of remembrance, this time Samantha leaned in to get a closer look at my face. I was just remembering a dream I had as a kid." She took a sip of her tea and asked, "A dream?" "My parents both worked, so there were times when I'd prepare dinner. I never minded cooking. I actually enjoyed it. But when I said I wanted to become a chef, they shot me down. As I grew up, I harbored a dream of owning my own restaurant, and that's what I was just reminiscing about." I was worried she might think I was naive, but contrary to my fears, her eyes lit up as she said to me, "Well, that's amazing. Having your own restaurant would be wonderful, Tony. With your cooking skills, there's no need to give up on your dream, right?" And with that, driven by my desire to be with her forever, I proposed to Samantha. It's been 2 years since we started dating. I'm confident about our future and building a happy home with her, who's always so comfortable to be with. She accepted my proposal with joy, saying, "Thank you, Tony, and can I make a suggestion?" Raising her index finger, she added her proposal. "What is it?" Drained of energy from proposing, I listened to her suggestion. "I was thinking about starting a dream savings account." Seeing the puzzled look on my face, she explained, "Dream savings is about saving money to support your dreams or mine, Tony. Little by little, it adds up. You know, many a little makes a mickle." Hearing this, I thought it was a brilliant idea, but I also wondered about her dreams. "What's your dream, Samantha?" She tried to dodge the question with a vague answer. "My dream? Well, let's put that aside for now." She didn't give a clear answer, but it seemed she hadn't decided yet. After we got married, she continued working, and we shared household chores. Naturally, I took on most of the cooking, while I left the laundry and cleaning, which I wasn't good at, to her. I never held the belief that women should do the household chores just because they are women. I think it's best if whoever is capable does what they can. However, I received a lot of criticism from her about laundry and cleaning, so I stopped attempting those chores altogether. So, I put all my effort into cooking delicious meals every day. I had to cut back on exploring new seasonings and eateries, sticking to my allowance, as we started saving for our dream. Seeing the balance in our dream savings account grow made me wonder if my childhood dream might actually come true. I even caught myself thinking silly thoughts like whether she had cast a spell on me. But then, something happened that put a stop to these musings. The following year after we got married, our first child, a son, was born. We decided to name him Michael. Despite it being our first time raising a child, her job as a preschool teacher meant she was accustomed to handling babies. Naturally, as he was our child, I was keen on being involved in his upbringing. However, whether it was the way I held him, my scent, or the texture, he wouldn't stop crying in my arms. She would caution me not to sway him too roughly, leading to a change of hands. In her arms, his cries would cease so abruptly it was almost startling. Maybe there was a sense of security in her touch. Becoming a parent truly made me realize the immense challenge it entails. After a whirlwind year of parental leave, she returned to work. Our mornings became frantic, and one wrong move could upset Michael's mood. Following a set routine, we demonstrated excellent teamwork. However, as mentioned before, an unforeseen event occurred. She developed a mental illness. Her passion for her job as a preschool teacher and the stress and fatigue from her diligent work led to her physical incapacity. Unable to continue working, she had to resign about 6 months after her return. I gently rubbed her back as she fell into a deep slump. Holding Michael, tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm sorry. We can't save for our dream anymore. I've become a burden." She apologized repeatedly. "What are you talking about? You've worked so hard, Samantha. Maybe this is God's way of telling you to take a rest." A tear rolled down her cheek. Michael, with a smile, reached out his tiny hand as if to wipe her tear away. It looked as if he was comforting her. Seeing that scene, I knew I had to protect them both. I made a firm resolution in my heart. After that, she seemed distant, lost in her thoughts. She never neglected Michael's care, but her smiles were rare, and she spoke very little. I wanted her to return to her usual self, but I knew better than to rush. Remembering our first picnic, I prepared the same lunch and took Samantha and Michael to the same spot. Standing in the same place as that day, I felt the wind on my face, bringing a sense of comfort. Turning to Samantha, she seemed to be enjoying the breeze on her cheek just as much. "Come on, I've made us some lunch, let's eat. Michael, sit down and let's eat together." As Michael, who is almost 2 years old, is seated on the spread-out picnic blanket, she stands up to open the lunchbox. "Daddy's chicken. Love it so much." With a hearty appetite, like her, he happily eats the fried chicken I make, calling it delicious. As Michael, his hands and mouth all greasy, tries to wipe his hands on my clothes, I hurry to stop him. She laughed for the first time in a while, watching our antics. Watching this unfold, I let go of his hand, and my clothes end up a mess with bits of fried chicken and grease. Seeing my clothes all messed up, I put on a sad face with an "oh no." At that, he laughs out loud and even tries to put his tiny hands on his face. Seeing this interaction, she too shows a joyful smile. That's right, as long as the three of us can laugh together like this, that's all that matters. Since we started saving for our dream, the childhood dreams I had given up on might just come true. No, I definitely want to make them come true. Before I knew it, such feelings might have started to take root in my heart. These feelings might have become a burden for her, leading to this outcome. Perhaps, dreams should just remain dreams. As my feelings started to change, her health also seemed to be gradually improving. When Michael entered elementary school and she started having some time to herself, she began working short hours as a child care worker, making a gradual return to her profession. Perhaps because she could do the job she loved, she began to speak more positively. She even brought up the dream I had shared with her before we got married. Even though we couldn't save much in our dream fund, now that I'm back at work, maybe it's feasible. I was touched, but I couldn't just say, "Let's do it." I don't want Michael to have to give up on his dreams because of financial reasons. Hearing that, her enthusiasm seemed to wane. "But do you remember when we looked at that used property before we built this house? That house had a shop on the first floor, and you said a home combined with a store might be nice, right?" I vaguely remembered the day she was talking about. True, we did talk about that, but I don't have the courage to quit my current job and take on a 30-year mortgage on the house. Dreams are called dreams because they are not meant to be achieved. With that, I ended the conversation. She seemed unsatisfied but swallowed her thoughts. I was content just cooking for my family and hearing them say it was delicious. And Michael was growing up, reaching the time to decide his path after high school graduation. I had easily given up my own dreams to comply with my parents' wishes. I didn't regret it, but I wanted him to build his future according to his own will. I would be there to offer advice and support when he wasn't sure. I wanted to watch over him as he walked down the path he chose. And so, he decided to pursue architecture in college. When we turned 50, he graduated from college and began living on his own to start his job. At the same time, he introduced us to his girlfriend. She's already pregnant with their child. Though I had thoughts about the timing and his being irresponsible in his first year of work, their determination to marry and have the children was firm, and we decided to support them with both families' blessing. Then, I received my transfer orders. After years of desk work, I was ordered to transfer to a field position. To a subsidiary in the neighboring state, no less. It was clear they wanted me to take early retirement. When I got home, I told my wife about the transfer. "Well, that's so sudden." Of course, she was shocked. "They probably want me to take early retirement. Maybe I'll work there for about 5 years. Now that Michael is independent, maybe it's time to make way for the younger ones. If I quit now, I won't get the full retirement pay, but maybe we could start that shop." I tried to lighten the mood and mentioned this idea to her. However, her expression changed completely. Starting a shop isn't child's play." I was surprised at her tone but responded, "But you used to talk about it, remember?" I brought up the past conversation. "That was when we were young. Now that we're older, we need to think about our future lifestyle. I've always wondered why you're so quick to give up things for others. Even if the company wants you gone, you should stay until you get the full retirement. I'll stay here. Go on your own if you must." Her cold response made me angry, but I retorted with determination. "I was thinking of you and Michael. I get it. I'll go alone. Living by myself, that'll be an adventure." Eventually, I moved to the new location without much conversation with Samantha. She must have had her own concerns. Spending time apart might bring us back to normal. Thanks to Michael keeping in touch, our family didn't completely fall apart. Living alone, I realized that cooking for my family was my only true joy. After finishing work on time and returning home, I found no energy to cook, despite loving it so much before. For the first time in a long while, I bought a convenience store dinner. I take a bite of the warmed-up food. It's not about savoring the flavor, just fueling up for tomorrow's work. I wondered if Samantha was eating well. I moved here without talking much, and ultimately, all I could think about was how she was doing. I didn't care much about meals, but I relied on her for clothes and underwear, often wearing socks that were thinning and tearing. Just when I needed it, Michael would always come by on weekends with new things, as if on cue. "Here's some stuff for you," he'd say, bringing new socks, underwear, and clothes. He said he chose them, but I believed Samantha bought those items and he was bringing them to me. That's what I thought. "Thanks, as always. How's everything at home?" I could only bring myself to ask about the house, but I was actually trying to inquire about how Samantha was doing. "Home, it's fine." "Oh, you mean Mom? She's good. She's been a big help with our eldest since my wife is expecting our second child." Hearing this made me feel relieved. It's been 5 years since I started living alone. I didn't return home until the Christmas holidays of the first year after moving, desperate to adjust to the new place. I was as nervous as if I was returning to a stranger's home, not having kept in frequent touch. Initially, there was some tension, but Samantha welcomed me warmly, and I felt relieved in the usual atmosphere. spending a lively end of the year with Michael's family. After that, I came back during the summers and brief holidays, but in the last year, she visited me more often. Even when I said I would come home, she would find reasons not to let me. Although it felt odd, I didn't mind since Samantha seemed to enjoy these trips like vacations. Then, in the 5th year, I learned the company was planning layoffs. I was the first to be approached, and though Samantha might disapprove, I wanted to give my spot to a junior colleague and decided to accept their offer, as I would receive the full retirement package. Nervous about possibly angering her again, I called Michael instead. "Michael, I'm sorry. It looks like I'll be leaving the company. I'll be done by the end of March." He didn't seem particularly concerned and responded casually. "Dad, you've worked hard, so you have 3 more months, huh?" The emphasis on 3 months felt significant for some reason. "Yeah, just 3 months left." Although I sounded a bit melancholic, he simply acknowledged and said, "Got it," seemingly unfazed. I told him about my retirement but couldn't bring myself to tell Samantha directly. Even though she must have heard, she didn't contact me. As my departure neared, I worried whether I had a place to return to. But soon, I would discover why Samantha hadn't wanted me to come home. On the last day of March, Michael came over to help with the move the next day. "Should I even go back to that house?" I asked tentatively. Michael laughed, seemingly amused. Sorry, but that's your house, right? What are you worried about? You're still concerned about things with Mom." "Oh, I found something great when I was cleaning the house the other day." With that, he showed me something on his phone, grinning. It was a wish he had written in kindergarten. Besides his dream, there was another piece of paper with something written in tiny letters. "I want to be the manager of Anthony's shop." Squinting at the fine print, Michael mumbles, "Is this?" "It says Samantha here, that's what it means." He showed a meaningful smile, said he was heading to bed for tomorrow's work, and quickly lay down. Her dream. When we were younger and I talked about saving for our dreams, she didn't share hers. Was this her dream? Then why did she react that way when I mentioned the transfer? The next day, Michael and I loaded my few belongings into the car and left the apartment I had lived in for 5 years. "Dad, did you forget anything? Off to the castle of dreams we go." Hearing him say this with such joy made me worry if he was plotting something mischievous. The familiar surroundings of our home hadn't changed, but after a year, it all seemed so fresh. My heart raced as we approached the house. As I thought, just around this corner, I couldn't find my house. "Wait, where's the house?" With a nervous voice, I got a laugh and a response from Michael. "Haha, what are you talking about? This is your house, right here." The garden facing the house had transformed into a parking space that could fit about 4 cars, altering the appearance of the house I knew. "What's all this about?" As I got out of the car and stared at the house in disbelief, Michael nudged me on the back, guiding me inside. The real treat is inside the house. Opening the front door, it felt like we were entering a store. Inside, there were counter seats lined up, with 2 tables available as well. "Sorry, Dad, for doing this without asking, but does this place look familiar to you?" As I struggled to recall, he provided the answer. "Remember when we were looking at various places before building our house? There was one where the first floor was a shop, right? I modeled it after that atmosphere. It's a vague memory, though." That jolted my memory. "Built? You mean you built this?" I turned to Michael with an even more surprised look. "I am a licensed architect, after all." Then, a little boy came running up, calling out "Grandpa." Michael's son peeked out from behind the counter, followed by Samantha in an apron, chasing after him. "Samantha." Before I could prepare myself emotionally, I struggled to find the right words. But Samantha spoke up. "You've worked hard all this time. This place will be where we start the second chapter of our lives together." I finally understood the answer she had been angry about that day. She had been determined to fulfill my dream. But due to her health, the dream savings hadn't gone as planned, and she felt guilty. Just as she was considering using the retirement money, I carelessly mentioned quitting my job, leading to that day's argument. "Did you think I was being greedy?" she asked, looking somewhat embarrassed. I couldn't find the words and just shook my head. "Even if we start a shop, we need funds to keep it running. Your cooking will definitely captivate everyone, and after that, I started learning what's necessary to open a food business from acquaintances in the industry. I even took a course to become a food protection manager because it's required. Since you said you'd quit by March, I asked Michael to renovate the house within that time frame, and here we are." Listening to Samantha speak so happily, I kept murmuring thank you over and over. "Samantha, to think you went to all this trouble for me. Thank you so much." My voice was shaking with tears by the last word. I had always hoped my family would never give up on anything, yet I was the one who had nearly given up on everything. They taught me the joy of having dreams come true. Call it greed, call it whatever, it doesn't matter. I want to make Samantha happy, the one who chased after my dream as if it were her own. My ultimate dream was this, but I'll keep it a secret for now. As the streetlights flickered on again today, I listened to Samantha's joyful laughter, ready to swing into action. Samantha, donning her favorite apron, hung up the open sign and called out loudly to me. "Tony, it's time to open up." Wearing a pristine white apron, I stepped up to the counter, and our first customer pushed the door open with a jingle. "Welcome,